This just might be the best steak sauce in the world because it will make your steak taste rich and creamy. And to make it, you don't even need a recipe.
Big thanks to Kamado Joe for sponsoring this episode.
Yes, I'm talking about an egg. No, it's not hard boiled. It really is just an egg. Because an egg is the perfect ingredient for this recipe. And I'm going to use it in 4 different ways to see which one is the best as a steak sauce. The first one is taking the egg and separating the egg whites from the egg yolk. Then I'm going to put some salt in a glass. Put the egg yolk in, top it off with more salt and let it sit in the fridge overnight. For the second experiment, I'm going to take another egg, but this time I'm filling the glass up with a high quality soy sauce. I'm going to separate the egg yolk from the egg whites and dip the egg yolk into the soy sauce. And again, I'm going to let that sit in the fridge overnight. For the third experiment, I'm going to need a sous vide machine because I'm going to take an egg yolk, put it in molten chicken fat, and then put that chicken fat in a sous vide bath that is running at a temperature of 65 degrees Celsius. And I'm going to leave it in there for an hour. And the last part of the experiment is just a raw egg yolk, separated from the egg whites. Now of course we're going to need a subject steak to do this experiment with, and therefore I selected this beautiful Côte de Bœuf. As you can see, this is a tender piece of meat from a younger cow. It doesn't have much intramuscular fat, but it will be the most tender thing ever. And it's a rather thick steak with the bone still in. So I'm going to need a way to keep my eye on that temperature. And therefore I'll be using the wireless meter thermometer. And with its 5 sensors, it's going to tell me all throughout the steak if my steak is perfectly cooked or not. Not just the sides, all the way down to the core. And of course, to cook this steak, I'll be using my Kamado Joe, which I loaded up with some big block charcoal, lighted up with a single fire starter, and once it was lit, I put the heat deflectors in and a delicious piece of smoke wood. Grill grates went in and I dialed it in to smoke at a temperature of 120 degrees Celsius. And now that we're all set, I'm gonna put my beautiful steak in. I can't wait. What is this? This must be the good life. Without further ado, I'm gonna place it in the barbecue. This thing is so big, I can set it up straight. And I'm gonna let this smoke. But for a beautiful steak like this, I still prefer the reverse sear method. Meter is giving me the heads up, 5 minutes, get ready. I'm ready. And then the second notification, get it off the fire right now. It lets you know. So I'm tapping it, getting it off the fire, and then I gotta let it rest. Let's be quick about it because we're talking about minutes here and this is exact science. It goes down to the 10th of... Whoa, yo, look at that. Oh, look how good that looks. It is juicy, it is tender, it's just dripping with juices. This looks so good. Whoa. But we can't eat it yet. As the meter says, we gotta let it rest now and it thinks it's gonna take at least 7 minutes. In the meantime, we can transform the Kamado Joe from smoking to grilling. I took the heat deflectors out and now I'm gonna put the grill grates back in. And I'm gonna set the grill grates closest to the fire so we got that nice searing heat. Because you gotta remember, we don't have to cook the steak anymore. It's rested, it's now ready to go. All we need is to bring the heat. All vents are open, the steak can go in. There we go. Now that we got the steak ready, it's time to check back in with the eggs. How are they doing? What do they look like? How have they transformed? And are they now the perfect condiment to our steak? Of course, it starts with the egg that we put in the salt. Let's see if we can uncover where that egg is and what it looks like. Oh, the salt has completely transformed. The salt definitely attracted some of the moisture from the egg yolk. I really want to carefully remove it so I don't break the egg yolk. Let's brush the salt off. And as you can see, it really is in between, still a little bit salty. Feels it became solid, but not really super solid. I'm gonna try and peel as much of that salt off as I possibly can. And then I end up with this yellow looking core. Next up is the egg yolk that has been put in soy sauce overnight. Look at how black this turned out to be. It's even hard to see where it's at. That's crazy. It turned super black. It's almost hard to see any yellow left in that. Let's see what happens if we take a little bit of paper towel and see if we get some of that soy sauce to come off. It's not super hard. You can still squeeze it, but it's still... Oh wow. Some of the moisture came out. And the last one is the one that we cooked in the chicken fat. This is more vide than it is sous vide, but it's definitely cooked. And it definitely firmed up. The last egg yolk that we're adding is the raw egg yolk. It is the final one. Stay in your position. And now we can do the experiment. Let's slice up the steak. And look at it. We got the beautiful crust. We got the juicy meat. This is absolutely perfect. Of course, I'm going to sprinkle on some salt to season it. Look at that beautiful, succulent, juicy steak. Of course, I'm going to start with the salty egg. 24 hours. Wow, look at that. I'm trying to get a piece off, but it just turned really hard. I'll have to cut a piece off with the tip of my knife, shave it off, and then it goes onto the steak. No. I must say I'm kind of disappointed. The egg turned hard, it turned salty, but it didn't add anything really to the steak. So I'm gonna say it's not worth the effort of putting your egg yolk in salt and then putting it on steak to make the steak taste better. Now let's see if we can dip the steak into the soy sauce egg yolk. Because it kind of, whoa, look at that. That's popping. You can dip this. That's kind of cool. That is adding something. That egg yolk and soy sauce, it completely transformed the egg yolk, but it also adds to the steak. It makes it pop a little bit more. However, it does make the steak taste like Japanese steak and not really like a better steak. And this piece of steak goes into the sous vide or vide egg. And it's 1 hour at 65 degrees Celsius. And did it turn soft? It kind of turned, yeah, it turned hard. I expected it to become solid, but not this solid. This is way more than I expected. This is way more. I have high hopes for this. This could be a thing. Whoa, that is creamy. That adds to the steak. I like it. It belongs on the steak. Wow, that's good. For the final one, the raw egg yolk. And I must say, I'm a bit prejudiced. I think it's gonna win. We'll see. Let's make it pop. And it's kind of odd to put your steak in a raw egg, but this is kind of like the yellow sauce. That is good. Now for some people that might be off-putting, putting that steak in a raw egg yolk, but there's something there. It's like, it's exciting. It is exciting because it makes it taste better. If I gotta put this in a list, I'm gonna say the egg yolk in salt ends last. Then at the third place is the egg yolk in soy. It's great, but it's not, wow, let's do that again great. And for the runner-up, I gotta give it to the raw egg yolk. It's the runner-up. The sous vide or vide egg comes at first place. It's rich, it's creamy, it's warm, and that is important when you're eating a steak at 54 degrees core temperature. It's important, and it matters. And now we've found the perfect condiment for our steak. And it's not raw, so I know some people that might be happy about that. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you next time.